It is Monday, September 19th. This is a bonus episode of the College Football Daily. I'm your host, Lance Glinn. Early yesterday evening, Sunday, September 18th, Arizona State Athletic Director Ray Anderson released a statement announcing the decision to part ways with head coach Herm Edwards, calling it a mutual agreement that he will relinquish his duties as head coach effective immediately. So with that said, Arizona State now joins Nebraska in the search for a new head coach. And joining me to discuss the decision and the now ongoing head coaching search is the publisher of 24/7 Sports, SunDevilSource.com, covering Arizona State athletics, Chris Karpman. So, Chris, thanks so much for coming on. And I got to ask you, when this broke early evening yesterday here on the East Coast, early afternoon for you on the West Coast, what was your initial reaction to the decision to part ways with Edwards, ending his 4+ year tenure in Tempe?
Initially, I was surprised, even though ASU lost a horrible game against Eastern Michigan the night before, just because Ray Anderson being a close friend of Herm Edwards and the nature of their relationship and the fact that nothing was done with the head coaching position 14 months into an NCAA investigation. Didn't expect that it would happen so quickly, knew that Edwards was in a tenuous spot heading into the season. And then with some difficult games ahead, Utah, USC, Washington, all ranked in coming weeks, that something could happen before the midpoint of the season. But the fact that it came after 3 games, very unexpected, even after such a bad loss.
And that timing is so interesting, right? 3 games into the season, you mentioned coming off a bad loss to Eastern Michigan. They're 1-2 on the year. Obviously, you mentioned the NCAA investigation, and everyone knows about the external factors that have sort of clouded the football program and Arizona State recruiting too. But why do you think it happened now instead of prior to the season when they were losing a lot to the transfer portal, or just waiting till the end of the season since they decided to keep Edwards for 2022 to move in another direction?
Yeah, so there's been a building discontent within the ASU community, boosters, fan engagement. It's very starkly present when you see that there's a half-empty stadium for Eastern Michigan and people are booing. And ASU President Michael Crow was at the stadium watching the game from a suite where there was prominent boosters there, and it's not something that he wants to deal with, no doubt. And I'm very confident that Herm Edwards and Ray Anderson, due to the nature of their relationship, had essentially been communicating with Crow that they thought that things were on the upswing and that they'd be fine this season and they'd be able to recover from losses in the transfer portal and with some of the guys that they added. But it was such a huge difference from what was actually observed. And that had to be something that really stung at the highest levels of ASU's university and the athletic department. And so I don't think there was really much of a choice that Crow wanted to move on at this point in time.
So before we get to some names, what do you think Arizona State should look for in a new head coach? You know, what sort of qualities do you think the next leader of the Sun Devils needs to possess? Does it need to be a West Coast Pac-12 guy? What kind of coach should the Sun Devils be searching for in this process?
I think this is a great question, and it's something that ASU hasn't deeply enough considered with its prior hires, really going back to probably Dirk Cutter. The tendency at ASU has been to underpay and find guys who are kind of in the twilight of their careers, the Dennis Ericksons, Herm Edwards of the world, guys who are looking for a last opportunity and probably aren't going to get it at more prominent schools. When in reality, ASU probably should be trying to be ambitious, hire young up-and-coming guys who have not really been head coaches for a long time and or are prominent coordinators. The ever-changing nature of college football, the landscape, recruiting, NIL, conference realignment, dealing with your players and trying to keep them happy and in the fold, very difficult, right? So I don't think that Herm Edwards was ever able to really get a handle on those things, and they need to make sure that they have somebody who is able to do that.
So let's discuss some names now. We've seen mentions of Brian Harsin if something were to happen with him at Auburn, or if he decides just to move back to the West Coast. Kalani Sitake, Jonathan Smith, any of those 3, first and foremost, would be big hires for the Sun Devils. They could go after coordinators like Bill O'Brien, Alex Grinch. You know, you've seen Dan Mullen, who obviously is working in TV now, Todd Monken as a few potentials as well. Are there any names that you've heard, or is there anyone on your mind that Arizona State should go after that you think would make for a good next head coach of the Sun Devils?
Some of those that you said I think would be very good. Jonathan Smith is excellent. Kalani Sitake is excellent. A home run hire could be Matt Rule, somebody who maybe wants to get back into college football. Given the nature of what's going on, he may not have opportunities immediately elsewhere. Given the timing of a lot of these things, ASU could potentially be in the mix due to some of these merging factors. Justin Wilcox at Cal, a situation that is really difficult to win there due to some structural issues that they have and financial considerations and the academic element of it. And I think that he has the ability to put together a staff that could be highly competitive. If ASU went totally to a young, up and coming guy who's a coordinator, then I think maybe Kenny Dillingham at Oregon. He's someone who has deep ties, would probably have a lot of booster support. He's from Scottsdale, kind of the old money crowd, big boosters. I think there's going to be a push for him as sort of an out of the box candidate if they go with somebody who's really, really keen on understanding young players and NIL and a lot of these things that are going on right now.
So, Chris, last one for me, and then we'll let you go. In regards to timing of the hire, right? You'd think Arizona State makes this move so that they get a jump on everyone else who will eventually be open. When do you think this needs to take place? Is this something that needs to take place within the next month and a half, essentially before the season ends? Or can Arizona State wait till the end of the year, really conduct this nice, thorough search, and then make a hire once all these teams' seasons are done?
I think that it's to their benefit to have it done by early to mid-November because they need to identify who they're going to try to target in the transfer portal. That's a lot of those guys are going to already be populating or will be known who will be into that transfer portal. ASU's had a really rough time in recruiting over the last 16 months due to the NCAA investigation. Their high school, junior college recruiting has kind of fallen off the map, really. And so they're going to need an immediate talent infusion. It's better to be at the front end of the queue with the decision. Sure, it makes it a little more difficult when some of these guys have existing jobs. I understand that. But this is the nature of college football today. And there's going to be earlier movement and more movement than there ever has been, probably, in the years moving forward. And this is a job that is relatively attractive. You take UCLA, USC out of the mix, you have expanded playoff, right? And if the conference is getting an automatic bid, well, ASU all of a sudden becomes maybe the most prominent school in the Southwest that's in the conference. And there's things that they could sell if they're able to convince coaches that they're prepared to do it from an infrastructural standpoint and that the NCAA investigation is not going to set them back.
So Arizona State now in search of a new head coach after parting ways with Herm Edwards. You can follow Chris Karpman on Twitter at Chris Karpman. Thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate you giving me some time.
Anytime, of course.
So for Chris Karpman, I am Lance Glinn. Thanks for listening to this bonus episode of the College Football Daily as Arizona State is now looking for a new head coach.